Number 1.
I was vacationing with my mom in Hawaii when I was 17 years old. My brother and I decided to go for a walk during the day to see the area. While I was crossing a busy street, a guy was walking from the other side with his, what looked like a hooker, girlfriend. As he walked past, he pulled out a gun and shoved it in my face. He stood there for a moment and just laughed. He pulled the gun away, shaking it, and kept walking away. There were like 50 people around, and no one said anything. They just carried on like nothing had happened. It completely ruined my vacation and my faith in humanity.
Number 2.
This is my true story about the most horrifying doll in the world. My 2 cousins lived about a half an hour away from my old house. We would visit them frequently when we were small. My cousins, 2 girls, shared a room and they had a bunk bed. Well, one night my brother and I slept over, and something occurred that I don't have any explanation for. My brother slept with my youngest cousin while I shared the top bunk with my other cousin. We were kids, and the bunks were big enough to hold 2 small kids comfortably. Suddenly I woke up. My eyes just opened. It was early morning, between the time where night ends and dawn begins. Pale bluish light filling the room. I sat up in bed, and the room had an eerie look to it, due to the blue light and the perspective from the top bunk. At the foot of the bunk beds there was a dresser with a huge mirror on it. There were a few things on this dresser, little girl things like dolls and jewelry boxes and so on. At this point I was fully awake and I knew it. I looked over at my cousin at my side and she was sleeping. I looked outside the window, which was at the other side of the bed, and it was starting to get light outside. I looked back to the dresser, and on that dresser in the center there was a huge doll. Those old-fashioned kinds with full, ugly pastel-colored dress, bonnet on its head, glassy eyes that open when it's upright and closes when you lie it down. Those type of dolls. And this doll was looking right at me. I didn't notice anything unusual until it started to move slowly. It moved its head and looked out the door into the hallway and blinked its eyes. As I watched, it slowly turned its head back towards me. I just sat there in terror. I started to tremble. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. Then it blinked at me again. I was so uncontrollably terrified. I wanted to scream but couldn't. I kept staring at this doll. It moved its arms up a bit. It was one of those types that was jointed, like a Barbie doll's arms. It repeated the process of turning its head towards the door and back to me. While staring at the doll, I reached over and tried to shake my cousin awake, but she wouldn't wake up. I jumped off the top bunk and ran out the door. I went into my aunt's bedroom screaming for her to wake up. And when she woke up, she asked me,
"What's going on? You nearly gave me a heart attack."
my screaming had woken up everybody in the house, and they came into her bedroom. I told them what had happened. All of us walked back to the kid's bedroom. I was so scared to point out the doll, but I managed to do so. My aunt went over to the doll and checked it out and stated that
"Oh, it was just a bad dream. Go back to bed."
the only person that believes me is my cousin that was sharing the top bunk with me. She told me that a few things have happened in that house, such as hearing footsteps pounding up the stairs when nobody was there. Since that day, I never went to my cousin's bedroom again by myself. Thank God they have moved houses now, so I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Number 3.
I woke up late one night and made my way downstairs to get a glass of water. As I rounded the corner into the kitchen that leads into the living room, I thought I saw my sister. She was sitting on a chair, staring out the window, and I walked up to her. I asked her,
"You know Mom's gonna kill you if she sees you awake. What are you looking at?"
and as I reached out my hand to put on her shoulder, it went right through her and she disappeared. I screamed and ran back upstairs and hid under my blankets. When my mom came to wake me the next morning, I told her and Jamie what had happened. And Jamie said,
"I was hearing noises last night, so I slept in Mom's bed."
Number 4.
it was early evening. I was in my front yard collecting leaves when the lady across the street came running out of her house screaming. She was in her pajamas and wearing hair rollers. She ran to her car, jumped in, and drove off. The shock on her face was like nothing I had ever seen before in my life. I froze in horror, waiting for whatever it was that scared her to come after me. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, but nothing else happened. That next week was Halloween. 2 of my girlfriends and I were getting ready to go trick-or-treating, and I told them what I'd seen. They didn't believe me, so we decided to go to her house and ask her if everything was okay. When we arrived at her home, I asked her,
"Hey, what happened the other day that made you freak out like that?"
as she put candy in our buckets, she simply said,
"Freak out? Honey, I wasn't even home for the past week."
This really freaked me out. Either I have a very strange neighbor with a terrible memory, or I seen something that day that could not be explained.
Number 5.
My dad was at EWO on an EB-66 during the Vietnam War. These planes were known for having horrible engines, and most of them were lost due to engine failure. His mission was to jam radars, so they would go in before the rest of the strike package. His plane had finished refueling and started heading over North Vietnam when their engines failed and the plane started to go down. Right before his team were ready to eject, the engines fired up. They were able to recover from the stall and carry out the mission.
Number 6.
I had a friend that used a Ouija board. She would always tell me that she had a ghost girl following her, which continued on for about 2 years. I never actually saw her, but only in pictures. My friend said once that she left her phone on the middle of her bed and walked out of her room. When she came back, she couldn't find it. She looked everywhere for it and finally found it under her bed. And it was open. Considering it was a clamshell phone, she looked at the screen. It looked to be a photo of a little girl. Her face was pale and kind of blue, as if she had drowned and had scratches all over her. As she slid the phone from under the bed, the face disappeared. The picture of the girl faded into the hardwood floor. The phone was not on the photo album at all.